Good morning, YouTube family. How we doing today? It is May 15th. It is a Wednesday. Hump day. Hump day. And it is 7:58 in La Mañana. So we are gonna get started with the message today. I'm not really like an ASMR type of a person, but I thought that this would be like a cool welcome to New York vibe, you know? I don't know. I thought this was like, I think that this could be like a thing where like every video I like, because I always do my videos in the morning and I open it and then you guys like see that. But that wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be. So today's video is about compromise, and I thought about this a while ago, but I'm getting around to it now because it seems to match what I'm thinking about, and I always just kind of like sit and think for a second to make sure like this is what I want to talk about, or that this is what I feel led to discuss or teach on or speak about, etc. etc. But you know, if this is your first time seeing me, hey, what's up? My name's Kimberly Ponce. Welcome to my channel. You know, we basically talk about literally legendary things literally all the time. So why wouldn't you want to be on this channel? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But your girl woke up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed this morning, despite everything really not going as planned. And it feels really good to get to the point in life where you're like letting things roll off your back, and just like not even getting bothered by things that like normally, usually, like when things just like don't go as planned, you know, it's like, oh, okay. And that used to be like the end of the world, but now I'm like, nah, it's a new opportunity. Like God has something else in mind. So I think that's kind of where I got this idea too from. It's like compromise. It's like finding middle ground. You know. Yeah. So I was actually watching Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I actually watched it like 3 or 4 times. I do that with movies. I get really like honestly fascinated by like the message or the like, it's not just like entertainment for me. It's like literally like what's the story and what's the meaning behind some of these things, or like I try and look for like hidden meanings, and then I also like study like the cinematography or like the videography or like how the director has a certain style, etc. Are you kidding me right now? My foot just got paint on all. I just have a bunch of paint on my foot now. Alright. It's cool. That's what I'm saying. Things are not going as planned because now there's a bunch of paint on my foot. It's cool. I have a mural on the wall, and I didn't know that it was. I put my foot, like, it's fine. This is just part of things don't go the way you expect. But it's cool, you know what I'm saying? It's all good. Compromise is like one of those things that you just need. Whether you're and like, yeah, this is gonna be a video too for like those, like, I think it'll resonate most with those who are like in a relationship. But this can be used, compromise can be used anywhere you go. It's something that you need. It's what, it's the only reason politics ever works. It's like there's compromise. And it's good too for if you're running a business, or you're an employee or you're an employer. There's always more than just your own opinion, and there's always more than just like my opinion. So a lot of the times we don't see eye to eye with others, but sometimes we do. But in those times we're just not able to find common grounds. That is, so the title of this video, without further ado, It's a long ass intro, 5 minutes. Is when in doubt, consider compromise. And in the movie, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, there's this scene where they're eating dinner at the table, and it's like kind of a big, like vertical, like long table. So like Angelina Jolie, who plays Jane Smith, is on one end of the table, and then I forget the characters. Oh, John. He just goes by John. His name's John. John Smith is on the other side of the table, and this is kind of the, like, and that's played by Brad Pitt. And then they're sitting down to eat, and it's like in the very beginning of the movie, but like things aren't like great between them. And in like if anyone's seen that movie, like the opening scene is like when the couple is they're in therapy. They're in couples therapy. And they both sit down to dinner. And he goes, this looks nice. Did you try something new, sweetheart? And she, her eyes kind of light up like a little bit, and she goes, yeah, I added peas. And then he's like, puts his bib on and then kind of like gets his cutlery together, and he goes, yeah, peas. Nice. And then like digs in and starts to eat. And she's like kind of like watching him while she's like cutting her food. And then he asks, sweetheart, will you please pass the salt? And she kind of looks at him, and like, remember I said it's like a longer table, so like Jane Smith is here, John Smith is here, and like there's legitimately like paint on the bottom of my foot right now. It's cool. You know what? I planned that. And he's like, sweetheart, can you pass the salt, please? And she kind of looks at him, and she's like, it's in the middle of the table. Say this is where Jane is, this is where John is, and then the salt is legitimately in the middle of the table. It's like one of those long, kind of like elegant dinner tables. And he kind of like looks at her like, are you serious right now? Like, and he goes, oh, like really, or something? And she's like, yeah, it's in between me and you. And it's like the salt in between both of them. And like, she's not wrong, but she's like, yeah, it's between me and you. And then he like, it is like perfectly in between both of them. So it's like equal distance from her and then equal distance from him, like the same amount of reach. But then he kind of just like looks at her like, are you really being like this petty? And then he like accepts that she is being this petty, and then he has to like get up. And in the movie it's kind of funny because there's like a chandelier that's like hanging in the middle of from the ceiling, and it kind of like hangs over elegantly of the middle of the table. And he kind of has to like duck his head, but he also has to reach over his like wine glasses that are like to the right of the like cutlery right here. And it's like a drinking glass of like water, but then like a wine glass, and he has to like precariously reach over the wine glass, but then also like not hit the chandelier, and then just like reach and grab the salt really quickly, and he almost like knocks over things like as he's sitting back down. And that really says a lot, and that really spoke to me. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Okay, I am waking up. It's good. I'm awake. I promise I'm awake. It's taking its sweet time, but we getting there. It's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a great day. I can feel it. So, I'm sharing this from Mr. and Mrs. Smith because that's kind of how life can be with a partner sometimes. there is a resource that's in between both of you. It's of equal distance, but one wants it more than the other. And generally speaking, in relationships too, it's like 80% is one person's like giving 80%, while the other person's really just kind of dilly-daddling and reciprocating a little bit, and mostly there for the ride, and they're giving 20% to the other person giving 80%. And generally speaking, I'm not saying it's like an unhealthy thing, but it's just generally how relationships go. There are like power couples and there are like really healthy relationships out there, but that's just kind of like usually one person is carrying the load. And so I watched this part a couple of times because he was speaking to me, and then I was like, God, do you want me to like talk about this or something? And then I felt like he was like, I was like, can you show me like, why is it so hot? I get so annoyed. Oh my gosh, it's fine. I just like, you try and live your best life and then you get warm. No, I'm just kidding. And so it's like, there was a couple of scenes in this movie where I was like, like, oh my God, it smells like weed. Oh my God. I get so annoyed that there's so many like freaking distractions. And then like I try and like, oh my God, like they need to stop smoking right in front of the lobby. It literally wafts up. Even if I close the window, it like wafts up through the old air AC. But whatever, it's not my problem. And I can ignore it. Let it roll off my back because I have a whole day to go. So, and it's the second time that's happened this morning, and it distracted me from writing all my Bible verses down. So it's all engineered, and enemy knows how to distract and stuff. So I'm not letting it stop me though. But Mr. and Mrs. Smith is like one of my favorite movies, and I'll try not to like talk about it forever. But I have like a lot of favorite movies, and I am a movie gal. I will watch the same movie 6 times and not get sick of it. If it's something that's like really well done. I love movies. I always have. I love studying everything about what's in a movie. Everything. The costume, the hair, the acting, the cinematography, the videography, the style of directing, the history of a director. I will watch an entire like documentary of watching how a certain director has accomplished his life works, and what his style was and what his color palette was, and like all of it is so fascinating to me. I love it so much. I love movies. I'm just a movie gal, and acting and facial expressions and how much you use your voice and intonation, and it's so fascinating to me. I have a passion for performance arts, I suppose, and that's part of that. So, that's just, yeah. So, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, there's another scene where, so before they know that they're both, like, assassins, or, like, like, hired by elite agencies to be, like, undercover and do, like, that type of clandestine work, they both are keeping that from each other, and that's the tension they have in their relationship. So before, when they meet in Bogota, Colombia, they are like being cute with each other, and like kind of, like, oh, this is what I do and this is what I do, but they're not really revealing their true identity to one another. So they go to this fair, like this festival, and there's like games, and you can win a stuffed animal, and there's this particular activity where they're like shooting with like targets, and if you like get a couple and you knock down the targets, it's like little metal things, and it's like when you hit it, it goes like, boom, boom, and there's like targets that they like have like these like like fake or no, I think they're like real guns, but they're like the festival guns, like not like they're like tied to like a rope and you can't take it off or whatever. And she's like, oh yeah, like hold it like this, and she's like kind of pretending like she doesn't really know how to hold a gun, and then she like, purposefully is inept and like gets a couple, and she's like, oh well, and then John Smith like takes, and he's like, yeah, mind if I try? And then he like gets like 5 in a row, and like wins her like little stuffed animal, and then like immediately while she's hearing and watching him hit the target, she goes, I want to go again. And she gets like all competitive, and I just thought that this was such a highlight of how relationships can go, or how even just friendships can go, where it's like it gets competitive once the other person sees how talented they are or how good they are in one skill, or like, so to speak. And she goes and she gets the gun again, and she gets 9 in a row, and then she's like, beginner's luck. And he's like, where did you learn to shoot like that? And then his like arms around her, and they're like walking away, and she got this like big bear like stuffed animal, and he's like, where did you learn to shoot like that? So it's like she got competitive when she saw how good he was. And the other scene from the salt is like, there is salt in between the two of them, but in relationships, one has to be willing to bend, and arguably both have to be willing to bend a little bit, so the salt isn't like an impediment to what could be like a flavorful dinner. Like it, like that's kind of like, yeah, like a good metaphor. Like if you're not willing to help your partner like get the salt that's in the middle of the table, or say it's your boss, or say it's your friendship, or even family members. Like, this is like the general concept of salt in the middle of the table between two people. It's representing two parties that have different alternative viewpoints, but the salt is the common ground. And if both parties are unwilling to lean in and grab the salt, or execute effort of any sort, then it's going to be a less flavorful dinner for everybody. Kind of like the metaphor there. So I was like kind of inspired by some of those scenes in that movie, and then, I've just been thinking about compromise. But let's go to the real word of life, and see what it has to say about compromise, and then we'll close out the vid. And thanks for being here, by the way. James 4:17. Is this the one I want to read? So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. James 4:17. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. Romans. So I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, like if we know we're like purposely misunderstanding that they need the salt, and like holding it against them, and then being like petty on purpose, that's like, yeah, like, kind of pushing your partner or the other party. It's kind of pushing them back down into the crap bucket, or kind of intentionally not offering assistance, at the hope that they won't get farther along than you, or at the hope that they won't succeed or achieve more. But if we know that that's what we're doing, then it's sinful to think that way. And so just keep in mind, if you know the right thing to do, and you know it in your heart of hearts, like, ask God for the spirit of obedience in that matter. Because if we don't, then we know it was the right thing to do, and then we don't do it, for him it is sin. And that's what it's saying in James 4:17, in my interpretation of this verse. Let's move on. Romans 14:1 through 23. This one's a little bit longer, but it's all good. As for the one who is weak in faith, welcome him, but not to quarrel over opinions. One person believes he may eat anything, while the weak person eats only vegetables. Let not the one who eats despise the one who abstains, and let not the one abstains pass judgment on the one who eats, for God has welcomed him. Who are you to pass judgment on the servant of another? It is before his own master that he stands or fails, and he will be upheld, for the Lord is able to make them stand. One person enemies? One person esteems? One person's blessings? One person's esteem, one person's we're just gonna pass. One person blank one day as better. One person's esteem one person's blessings. This is like one of those moments where I wish the earth would just like swallow me up and then I wouldn't have to be in this moment. But I don't know what that word says because my handwriting, as better than another, while another esteems, it is esteems. One person's esteems one day as better than One person esteems one day as better than another, while another esteems all day alike. Each other should be fully convinced in his own mind. Okay, so what is that verse saying? What's that saying? It took me a couple times to read this one and get it, but essentially, it's respecting that other people have their own viewpoint and their own walk of life and background and vastly different experience from yours. So it's like you've had just as many faults as the next person who's for kind of like a frank way to speak, just as like fucked up and flawed as the next person. So like it's kind of reminding us not to be pious or to be on our high horse, but to recognize that kind of like that saying to one man's treasure is another man's folly, because it says one person's esteem one day as better than another, while another esteems all day alike. So everybody's different, and that's kind of the key to understanding the value of compromise as well. It would be boring if everybody had the same desire and outcome. An outcome that is, there's good outcomes because there's multiple different viewpoints and opinions that shaped the final product. And so that's because, like, everybody has a different way of seeing something, or, like, they value this, but then they could never imagine, like having any care for this type of pursuit in life. But the other person, like, that's their total esteem for all day. We see too that it's interesting. Like this verse, like I had to read a couple of times. So, who are you to pass judgment on the servant of another? It is before his own master that he stands or falls, and he will be upheld, for the Lord is able to make him stand. So it's kind of saying, like, despite anybody having harsh opinions or judgment, like God will be the one to uphold you with his righteous right hand. As for the one who is weak in faith, welcome him, but not to quarrel over opinions. So it's to say too that we're going to go through this life and have awesome conversations with people we might not agree with, but that doesn't mean that we should, spend time at length quarreling over these misconstrued opinions, or I don't know what's going on here. Don't spend too much time of your precious energy to discuss at length the to bicker and to split hairs and be there's like a word for it, to totally hyper focus on semantics or something kind of like minutia detail that really isn't all that necessary or important, or really it's just like the little details. Like, don't spend too much time on that. What God is saying is, like, just recognize that we're here together. And so if it's kind of like also that verse too that's coming to mind is like, bear with one another. We have to like bear with each other, bear with one another, and the difficulties that others may kind of bring to the surface. So I really like this verse. It took me a couple of times to understand it, but let's keep going, and then we'll close out the video. We have 2 more verses, and that's it for the day. James 2:14 through 17. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If your brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, be warmed and filled," without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. Yeah, I love that verse. This kind of goes a lot in line with the first verse, James 4:17. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. So it's like if we were to tell our brothers or sisters, go in peace and be warmed and be filled, without giving them those things, then what good is that? So this also, brings to light like leading by example, following through on your word, and if we have actions in alignment with our belief of faith, good things are going to happen for you. I encourage you to put that to use today. Whatever you need to do today, whatever it is that you need to finish this week, maybe you have a deadline, maybe you have a project, maybe you just have so much to do, it's just quite overwhelming. And it just seems like all you do is work, but have you tried the part yet where you have faith, where God is going to like miraculously give you that boost of energy you need to finish off the week strong? I encourage you to put that to use today, because you'll see that by faith and your works together, that will bring like beautiful, beautiful things into alignment and create like abundance and prosperity and peace of mind for you. It is the most beautiful and coolest thing in this world to have faith, because it's literally an adventure. It is an adventure. It's literally an adventure. We just have to have that childlike faith and like hope, and just hope. Like you don't have to like make a big like stink about like what it is that you're like putting your faith in. Just hold it in here and talk to God about it. Keep it in here, but then do something of your physical body where it's bringing it to life. Bring it to life too, along with what you believe and see up here. And that will bring you good works, along with your faith. So also by faith itself, it is not, so as also faith by itself, if it does not have works, it is dead. So bring it to life, add physical action to your dreams, to the vision you have up here. I encourage everyone to do that today and see the adventure of faith. It is quite possibly the most exciting thing in life, in my humble opinion. And then we'll finish off with Galatians 5:16. But I walk by the Spirit. But I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. And so this one is like a good ending little cap for the video, because it's keeping in perspective that we are human, we are going to have these desires. It's our natural tendency to sin, in fact, and without keeping it in check, but this like verse keeps it in check. That's why I like it so much. If we were to like not be reminded all the time that we are in the flesh, then those desires would kind of eat us alive all the time. And we have to constantly stay in the Word, and we're being reminded of like the good moral compass and the vessel that we are for God as children of God. And if we're like, okay, I'm not going to give into these fleshly desires, or I'm going to keep it on the forefront of my mind, then I'll be walking by the Spirit. And I know that when I'm walking by the Spirit, that means I'm in alignment with all the fruits of the Spirit, gentleness, patience, joy, and kindness, and lovingness, and compassion, and like slow to anger, and being more about listening. We have 2 of these and we have 1 of these, so it's like let me recognize that I'm just like literally here in a temporary moment, in this temporary timeline, on this temporary earth. Okay, yeah. Okay, right. Like it is just kind of normal to be tempted by like everything when you go out into the world. Like it's there for your taking, and it's seen as a good thing. It's seen as a favorable pursuit, these worldly favors, so to speak. But if we're walking in Spirit, but I say, Galatians 5:16, but I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. So yeah, it's beautiful, man. I hope this vid was encouraging, inspiring, informative. I love you guys so much. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay chosen. Peace.